I've got a rant today. Okay. You see this? This is most of Grimgar, a fantasy and Ash. It's a really good anime that you should probably go check out because it's the one that I watched. However, it is season 2. Never! Which is why I went and started picking up the light novels. And it's not because these are some extraordinary pieces of prose. I just like the characters. And you know what? That's actually really important when dragging someone into a series. As you can see here, I've got 11 of these volumes. Part of that is because it's pretty easy. These are light novels. Like, that is something that you're just going to hear about Japanese light novels, is they're not difficult to read. They're like what young adult actually is. And I read this as a break from like dense nonfiction research subject. Now, allow me to give a overview with few spoilers of my experience reading this series thus far. Volume 1 is the first half of the anime. It's great. Volume 2 is the second half of the anime. It's great. Volume 3 is a slap in the face. Okay, I was prepared for that. The Grimgar is literally, it's in the title. Grim. 4 it's hitting its stride. I'm liking it. They're accomplishing things. I'm having a good time with the characters. Getting a lot of depth out of them, even though not much happens. 5, they start doing something special. They're really making a name for themselves. I'm here for it. Oh, good God, this isekai novel has an isekai in the isekai. Okay. Oh, good God, the isekai in the isekai has an isekai. Okay. Holy crap. At least they finally made it back to the first isekai. So thankful that they're finally back at the first isekai. This was the most forced combat. But okay, sure, they're making progress. This is now an arbitrarily difficult slog back to the main plot, essentially, where they're supposed to be getting answers. That's why they're supposed to be proactive about it. Then I read this. This is volume 10. I read this one on vacation. I actually went out to a ski lodge, and I was reading this in the morning while waiting for my brother to wake up. I was hungover, sitting in the lodge. You know, this is early December. It wasn't really super necessary for me to go hit the 3 slopes that were available with artificial snow. So I was reading a book. This book can go fuck itself. Straight up almost ruined my vacation. Okay? I wanted to drop the series because of this. Because in all of this span, I would say that basically nothing good happened to any of the characters. Nothing. Arguably, in all of the entire series, nothing good had happened to the characters. There are limits to the amount of misery porn you can inflict on a reader. And I was just frustrated with the lack of apparent progress, this back and forth, this constant whining about, am I weak or am I strong? What makes these other people that are so intimidating, what makes them stronger than me? Is anything actually going to happen? And then, you know, I got the ending there. I already owned volume 11. And when I was sitting here in 10, I was just like, the pieces of the puzzle to make this work seem to exist. But the way the book ended, those pieces of the puzzle, the things that were foreshadowed, must have been foreshadowing something else. You wouldn't end the book like that if you were going to fix it. You would end it with a hook of, hey, something good is actually going to happen. That's the hook you use in that case. And he didn't. Which led me to assume that it was more and more misery porn to come for the rest of the series. Stop buying the books. However, I did already have 11. And it's a short book, and I knew I could read this in like an afternoon. So it wasn't a big commitment. It just kind of hurt that 11 books of commitment were being rewarded with a spit in the face, essentially. But I read it. And to my surprise and a bit confusion, they actually did fix it. They actually did use the things that were being alluded to, but weren't used for the hook. Which brings me to the subject of this video. It's not just for me to bitch about mistreating characters. Another thing that I think you'll notice is the typical thing that Japanese light novels do, which you can see right here. They're all the same length, almost completely. Like volume 7 there is slightly longer, but generally speaking, they're all about the same length, almost the same word count. And on top of that, the story is constantly contrived to end every book at these perfect, word count intervals with this over-the-top, bloody, desperate monster fight that pushes them to their limits and threatens to kill characters off, and it often successfully does. It's a question of, is it from the main party or is it from the side party? It's so repetitious that at volume 11 here, it's formulaic. And personally, I find the fight boring. But it's obviously intentionally done that way. And you can tell that that was forced in artificially. This is a light novel release of something that was clearly written continuously. Presumably in a web novel format where you just keep going because you're basically trying to accumulate followers. You're not trying to get individual sales. That comes later. Edit pass. The plot line that matters, that should have been the hook. Like, if these had been one book, here is where the book ends. On a down note. It's like that far. It's a little sliver into 11 when you get the, okay, but here's some hope. It was like that far in. It just didn't match the fucking formula. And that's actually, in my opinion, a really fucking big problem with this industrial method of story production. Now, okay, sure, you crowdsource the accumulation of amateur stories until you find a good one with some potential for audience draw, and then you polish that up. I'm totally fine with that. I fully believe that you should be looking at the systems of support for creatives if you want to create very good products. And I think everyone can see that anime and manga is producing a very good cream of the crop. People aren't really seeing all the dreck underneath that. But they broke the plot arbitrarily, as if they just got lazy with it. I don't like ascribing to things like the pyramid, the plot pyramid or the 3-act structure or anything. But this was definitely broken at the wrong point, just so they could get cover sooner. So they could presume, it feels like it was so they could start selling these at a slightly higher premium, because the books are all the same price. No, that isn't. If every book in the series is the same price, people are going to be comfortable paying for that. And if they're the same length, that means you're going to be getting the same royalties at the time on a sale. If that makes sense. You gotta fucking give somebody a reason to continue the story. And ending with absolute despair after what really at that point felt like 10 books of despair, and hiding a bit of hope, even if it's poisoned hope, even if there's a fucking problem. That's fine. That's called plot conflict. But hiding that in the middle of the next book has to be one of the strangest editorial decisions I've ever come across. That's just because I'm not very good at sticking to a series and actually getting through it. But, writers, please have some consideration for where you are breaking a long story up. I know a lot of people simply just don't think in terms of trilogies or sagas anymore. They think about, how can I maintain the audience's interest? Because people love series. That's how you make money at this. I don't blame that. But ending on a fuck you note, like just straight up pissing in the reader's face for getting their hopes up, only to like, oh, actually, no, next book it's okay. Oh, fuck, man, don't do that. I hope you can understand, at least from the emotions I'm displaying, what basically happened, because I'm trying to not actually say what happened. Because, well, do I really want to spoil 11 books worth of continuing plot for somebody that's thinking about picking it up? That's a little much spoilers, even for me. But I read it. I'm glad I bought ahead in this series, because I probably wouldn't have bought 11 if the choice had come after reading Volume 10. I guess I'll be continuing. There's about 5 more books in this series, and I will be knocking it out, unless they decide to just start killing off characters left and right, like it's the fucking Red Wedding. Till then, my book is in the description. I'll have this updated soon. I've got my own isekai coming out soon, but this is lovely tech noir. YouTuber things. Subscribe, hit the like button. Yeah, you know.